Thank you all for joining us this afternoon to learn more about creating online discussions in WT class. I'm excited to have you guys here. We'll be able to go over some best practices for online discussion boards, simple steps that will help faculty to set up their discussions, interact with their students, how to grade your discussions, and then we're going to have faculty share ideas on ways you guys use discussion boards, whether it's a discussion in your face-to-face course and on online courses as well, just so that you guys can exchange some ideas. And so we're going to use the breakout room feature where faculty will be in different groups, and we'd like for you all to share some ideas on structuring discussion, whether it was in your face-to-face class or online course. What worked well when you were facilitating these discussions or using discussions in WT class? So for when we go into our breakout rooms, if faculty can introduce themselves, the department that they're in, and then if each person can take about 60 seconds or more to share their ideas on these two, on the question around facilitating and structuring discussions, whether it's face-to-face or online, and what worked well, and be open to new ideas. And so I'm going to go ahead and add you all to a breakout room, and then we'll take about 5 minutes just to share some ideas. And so you'll pop out of this room and then go into your breakout room. And then I'll put the questions in the box. Okay, so we have folks coming back to the main room. I know that it is Friday. Y'all have probably been in several meetings and having a discussion about something new that you might not have been using, might not be as simple. And so we'll go through the training, and hopefully you guys will spark some ideas that you can use in your online courses, or even in your face-to-face course, using this as an additional resource for your students to have discussions outside of the classroom. Does anyone want share any ideas before I move on what worked well in discussions in WE class? Is there someone here that wants to share some practices from your own experiences? If not, it's okay. And if you want to type in some ideas in the chat box, you're more than welcome to. So discussions can promote community social interaction, giving your students opportunity to interact with one another, engage in conversation with one another, also engage with their faculty, the professor of record, and participate in academic discourse, which is meaningful for their own construction of learning. And so we definitely recommend thinking of ways where you can promote a variety of discussions in an online course so that you can promote these areas for student learning. And so before we go into setting up your discussion boards, we want to provide tips for creating online discussion boards. So it's really important for faculty to think about the clear expectations, the questions, requirements should be outlined. And if you're going to require your students to respond to students, if you're going to require your students to have a certain amount of word count for their initial response, and also if you're going to require your students to cite evidence or provide outside learning links or additional resources. So when you're creating your discussions for the semester, it's really important to convey clear expectations and communicate that with your students. The second tip is communicate with your students. So participate in the discussion boards with your students. They're going to learn from the discussions that you have with them in an online environment, and you get to model the academic discourse that you want them to be able to participate in. And so it's really important that faculty are providing feedback on discussions from the start, as they learn to engage in discussions with your students. And so uh, they know that you're reading their posts. They know that you're interacting with them and you're supporting their knowledge creation in an online discussion. And so your interaction is really going to help set the tone for the other students to be able to participate as well. So be sure to, interact. And while you're interacting and communicating with your students, look out for those students that are not getting replies from other students so that they are able to participate in discussion, and other students will be able to see that you're interacting with them, and hopefully to encourage other students to interact with students that might not get a response. So one of the other things is to offer choices. Allow students to choose from a few prompts. You might want to consider two different prompts, and they get to think about which one they get to pick the one that they want to answer. And so they're able to guide their learning, read the material that they need to answer those questions, and choose questions you care about. You're ultimately going to be reading the answers. And so choose questions that you're passionate about, that you're able to have academic discourse with your students and you're interested in, because you are going to be you're going to be grading each of those discussion boards. And avoid the same questions each week, and having your students regurgitate material they need they're reading. And so if you do have your students read a chapter and you have questions, that might not be the best discussion format. You might want to think of offering a variety of discussions throughout the semester. So you might have one about a chapter, you might have another one about a case study, you might have another discussion where your students will ask the questions and they will respond to one another. You might have them do practice tests for an exam or a midterm, final. And so they're able to construct questions, and then students are able to use it as a study guide. So when you're creating these three tips as you begin to use the discussion boards in WT class. So I touched base a little bit about providing a variety of online discussions. So take time to think about different ways to engage your students. So having 2 to 3 prompts to draw on students' interest. You could do guest lectures. So you might have a colleague of yours, whether they're here at WTAMU or at another institution, they can do a video lecture and you can ask questions and have your students respond. You could write a scenario in the field and allow the students to provide what they would do next based on their own experiences and the readings and lectures that you've provided. And think about pacing your discussions where you might not want to do it every week. You might want to do it once a month or every other week. And so you're having intentional and thoughtful discussions, and it doesn't feel like students are reading and regurgitating material, but they're really participating in authentic discussions. So let's go over the discussion board demo. And I'm going to log in. And so this is the course template that the ITS team, our team of instructional designers, created for faculty to use. You probably have been through the training. You can get access to this template to use best practices to create an online course. And so when you use this template, you'll see that there is a discussion board link on the menu. And this is where you'll be able to build all of your discussions. And one of the things that we would recommend is that you build all your discussions in this link. And so you'll see all the forums in one area. We would recommend that you hide this. So right now it is hidden, but when you copy the course template, you'll see that it's not hidden. And so we would recommend that you hide it. And the reason being is once you create all of your discussion, you'll be able to link it to the appropriate learning module. And so the appropriate discussion is located within the correct learning module based on the week or based on the objectives that you're teaching and the topics that you're teaching. And so your students don't necessarily have access to all of the discussions all at once. They have to go in the order of the learning experience from start to finish. And so definitely recommend hiding it. So for best practices, we recommend that you type up all of your discussions and then create your discussion boards in advance. And so that then you have it ready for the semester. All you have to do is click on discussion board on the menu, click create forum. Then you'll be able to title your discussion. And then below here, you'll be able to type in your questions, expectations, etc. over here. And you could use any of the formatting toolbar tools to maybe even insert image. If you wanted to add a few links, you could do that too. Link to an article. So then you would highlight that, and then you could link it by clicking on insert or edit link, and then pasting that link there. So you could add additional resources within the discussion board for your students. So it might be a YouTube video, like one of the faculty members said earlier in the breakout room discussions. So once you have all your discussion questions and expectations and resources, then you can look at the setting. So it looks like there's a lot of settings, but one of the things that we would recommend is that you can keep it as is, but the first thing to think about is, are you going to be grading your discussion boards? If so, you want to click grade discussion board. And then the number of points it's worth, or 100. And so then it'll be linked to the grade book. You'll be able to grade your students' discussion, and you'll be able to show participants in needs grading status after every one post. So we would recommend that you do too. And we would recommend that you grade after the due date. So the reason why we would recommend that is that if your students are engaged in conversation and you see that they have responded to they have two posts, and you grade it, and they go back into the discussion board and they want to respond to another student, and they include two more posts, it's going to trigger a needs grading. And so you want to wait until after the due date, so then it'll prevent that, and you'll be able to grade your students' work after they meet the due date and the requirements. And so you can select the due date, you can edit the time, and then you would click submit. So that really, and on all honesty, for simplicity, um, the grade book feature is really important. So if you're going to grade, you want to make sure you have that done. And then you want to make sure that, you put how many posts are you requiring them to do, and then the due date. There are other features. I'm going to go over the other features, but this right here is the basic setup, and you can click submit. But before I do that, I want to show the other features. And so if you're the type of person that you want simple, then those are the basic steps that you want to use to create your discussion board, your title of your discussion board, your questions. You can do the grade discussion forum, and then include the due date and the post. So, and then click submit. But if you want more features, then you'll need to look at the other settings. And so you could display discussion to be available by on a certain date until a certain date. And so you might want to do it for 2 weeks, and you can, make those decisions and add them here and put a time limit, a time when it will end. And then you have the standard view, and then you also have participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in this forum. So when you click this option, it will it will require the student to post something before they could read any other posts. So some faculty might want to have students respond before they start reading others posts, so then you would select that. And then one thing that you'll notice is that below, in the features below, that these options are crossed out, so you can't edit it or anything like that. They will be able to attach files, or you can deselect that. They will be able to quote one of their fellow peers' responses. And you can also force moderation of posts. So this is where you will get to read it before other students, just to ensure that it is appropriate. So if you are having your students discuss a sensitive topic, you might want to consider uh, checking that box. And so then you'll get the post before other students. And so then you can kind of monitor any sensitive topics that I might, be inappropriate. And you want to be able to review them before they go live. And then there's additional options: allow post tagging and allow members to rate posts. These are things that we typically don't cover in this training, but if you want to learn more, we're happy to do one-on-one consultations. I'm going to go back up real quick to the subscribe area. And so this allows students and faculty to subscribe to specific discussion boards. So if you have a Q&A or the Muddiest Point forum where students are posting questions throughout the semester, you will be able to allow members to subscribe to forum, and they will be able to receive an email when someone posts it. So if you have a Q&A discussion thread, we would definitely, recommend that you subscribe to it if you're not checking it, on a daily or every 48 hours, so that you can respond to your students. Definitely subscribe to it, so then you get a email notification. And you can also add a rubric to your discussion board. And so then you can create one. We're not going to go over this, but if you guys want to learn how to do this, feel free to sign up for one-on-one consultation. And so then you can create a rubric for all your discussion boards to use. So you're able to grade your students' work via rubric. So I'm going to go back to standard view though. And you'll notice that the other settings right here are available now. When you select the participants must create a thread, it crosses out these other options. So allow author to delete own posts. We would recommend not doing that because you can see, original work, and there's no issues of them accidentally deleting it. Allow author to edit own published post. We definitely recommend not selecting that. And one practice that you could do is just have them reply, and if they want to add more to their post, they can do that. Again, you'd want to mention that in your expectations for your discussion board. One of the reasons why we would recommend not doing that is that you might get students that say, I got a 70, but look, I did it all correctly. And then they had that option to edit. And so we definitely recommend not selecting that. And then putting in expectations of if they want to edit, they can, reply to their thread and include additional information that they were missing. And so after you are done with adding your questions and going over your settings, then you'll click submit. And then your discussion board will be here at the bottom. So we would definitely recommend that you type up all of your questions and create all of your discussion at once if possible, so that you're able to just build it out for the semester. Keep in mind, think about uh, potentially like limiting your discussion so it doesn't seem like something that your students are just having to do, busy work. Make them engaging, make them interactive, do some guest lectures, have them read an article and answer questions based on that. Um, do scenarios based on their field of study. There's do midterm review questions or final exam review questions. So there's just different ways that you all can, really brainstorm ideas to create a variety of discussion boards. And so once you have it all built up and you have your settings where you put, the availability, the due dates, you don't have to worry about doing this again. You don't have to worry about the settings. Next thing you have to do is link it to the appropriate learning module. And so if you, after you're done creating all of your discussion boards, you would click on content or lesson or whatever the tab that you have all of your learning modules or your lessons. And then you will click on that and you'll be able to link your discussion boards. And so when you link your discussion boards, you'll see a paper clip and a little paper, and it will link to your discussion boards. You want to make sure that you have copied the questions already before you link, because you're going to need to paste it again. It's just one of those steps that seems like a lot of repetition, but as long as you have typed up your questions in a Word document, then you can easily copy it into both of the areas where you create your discussion boards and then where you link your discussion boards. And so when you link it, students only have to complete that specific discussion board. They're not going to get access to all of the discussion boards. So they'll click on the link, they'll click create thread, and then they'll type in their response. So they'll be able to answer their questions here and then click submit. I'm going to click cancel out of there. So how do you link it? You're going to click on tools. So when you're in the appropriate module, you'll click on tools, you'll click on discussion board, and then you're going to click select a discussion board. So as long as you have created all of your discussion boards, whether it's for the first 3 months or the whole semester, you'll be able to click select a discussion board forum. So I'm going to select Muddiest Point Forum, and then you're going to click next. Okay, so it's select a discussion board forum. So the one that they're in that week or in that module, and then click next. And then you'll paste your question in this text box right here. So I have that there. And then you don't have to worry about any of these options. So the reason why, you already set up all of your settings in your discussion boards on this menu. So you don't have to worry about any of this at all, because you've already set up your settings. So don't do anything with that. And then you'll just click submit after you paste your questions. And so then you scroll down and then you'll see the Muddiest Point Forum link, and then the questions that you put, and then your students will be able to click on it and create a thread. They will see the forum description right here, and then they'll be able to type in maybe their name. If you might require them to put their name and then maybe the discussion board title, and then they can type in their response and then click submit. So that's how that's that's how they would create a thread and respond. But going back to linking, just real quickly, you'll make sure you copy your questions from your Word document. You'll click on Tools, click Discussion Board. You'll click Select a Discussion Board Forum. Select the discussion board and click Next. You'll paste your questions and then click Submit. You don't have to worry about the things below, and then it'll be linked to the appropriate weekly module or learning module. So does anyone have questions about setting up your discussion boards and linking your discussion boards for your students before I go into grading, how to grade your students' discussion boards? I see. Okay, so no questions right now about linking their discussion boards or creating their discussion boards. That's a good question. So how do you create group discussion board forums? You have to create groups first. And so I'm happy to do a one-on-one consultation. But the groups function, users and groups right here, and you'll be able to click on groups. And then you'll be able to create your group there. And then when you do create a group, I'll just briefly show you guys. If you briefly create a group, you'll be able to select what availability that group has. And so if you want to learn more about how this, there's not faculty that are using this feature, but depending on what you're trying to accomplish, we can definitely help you in a one-on-one consultation. So I'm going to close out of there. So once you have your discussion board set up and they're linked to their appropriate learning modules, and your students are you're interacting with them, your students are interacting with one another, and your deadlines are passed, you'll be able to go into the grade book and grade your students' responses. And so I am going to first, before I do that, I want to show you student preview real quick. And so then you can kind of see what it looks like for your student when they enter a discussion board. So as you notice that the discussion board link on the menu is not there because it's hidden from students. And so they would have to go into the content area, go to the module, and then they can select their discussion board, whether it's in the table of contents or they can click the page over to go to the discussion board. And so they can click launch. They will see the question here. They'll click create thread, the question again here, and then they can subject. I always recommend maybe having them put their name and then the title of the discussion board, and then they can type their response. And they do have the option to add photos. So your students are able to add photos or even links to specific sites. Maybe they have to look up, read news articles, and they are providing current events that are related to your discussion questions. So they can, have access to these features or even attach documents. One of the things that we do recommend is that we definitely recommend faculty to have their students type in their responses. One way to use the attachments is for peer-to-peer review. And so if they are going to review each other's papers, this could be a way for students to be partnered up with a pair, or and they are able to read each other's responses or download the paper and then provide feedback and read each other's responses and feedback. So that's one thing. We would definitely recommend not doing attachments for everything, because then you're gonna have to download it. That's another click. And it's much easier to read from the text box. So they can students will click submit, and then you'll be able to see their responses and reply. So I'm going to click exit preview from student, keep the preview user data, continue. So again, we would definitely recommend you interacting with your students in the discussion board. Once the deadline has passed, then you'll be able to go to the grade center, and you have 2 ways where you can grade your students' discussion threads. So you do needs grading or full center. And so I'm going to needs grading for right now. And so we have 3 total items that need to be graded. I'm going to click, you'll be able to see the items in the table below, and you'll be able to click on the user attempt. So I'm going to click on user attempt right here, and then it takes you to the gradebook where you're going to be able to you can reread the responses, and then you can grade your students' work. And then if you have a rubric attached to this, there will be a link for you to be able to see the rubric over here, and you'll click on it and be able to grade it through the rubric. But we definitely recommend responding in the discussion board versus in the gradebook. So once you're done reading and grading, then you'll be able to go here, type their grade, any feedback. And so like in the beginning of grading your students' discussion, it's really important to give them feedback early on in the semester so they know what they need to work on when providing their initial posts and interacting with their students. And so if you see that they're not providing thoughtful responses to their peers, definitely provide that feedback so that they can make improvements early on and meet your expectations. There are options where you'll be able to do record your audio or video response, but that I don't think that's something that you would do for this specific assignment. So once you're done with reading their discussions and replies, you give them their grade and feedback and click submit. And so if there are additional things to grade in your needs grading, it'll pop up then the next one. And so then you can read feedback and then click submit. And so that is one way to discussion grades. The next way is full grade center. It's going to have the same functionality. It's just going to look a little different. You'll see all of your students, of course. You'll go to the discussion board that needs to be graded, the column. So you'll go to that column, you'll go and click on the drop-down arrow and then click grade user activity. And it has the same setup. So you'll be able to read all of their threads, any responses, you'll be able to put their grade in and feedback and click submit. So if you had 10 students that responded, it'll take you to the next student until all of your students' assignment or discussion boards have been graded. So it's fairly, easy to, access your students' discussion boards to the gradebook and provide them the feedback. Again, it's also easy for you to be able to go to the actual discussion boards. You can go into your faculty area where it's hidden and click on the discussion board and read through them and reply to your students. So you'll be able to reply to them. You're able to add those other features, images, links, things like that as well. You can click on quote here, and so then there's something you want to provide, if you want to quote something from their statement, you can select text and then this is a short response. And so, um, if it's a longer response, you could delete part of the response so that you're able to just quote a specific text and then write your reflection uh, or write what you like about what they said. So yeah, this is the simple steps to get your discussion board set up. Link them to your content and access your students' discussions via gradebook and provide a grade and feedback. Does anyone have questions about setting up their discussion boards? Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to provide a recording of this training, and so you guys can have access to it. We'll also provide some resources that you guys can use to create your discussion boards. I know that everyone is working really hard to get ready for the fall semester. Our team is ready to support you all. So if you want to sign up for a one-on-one consultation, we are definitely happy to help you with creating group discussion forums and or any other features that you would like to use in WT class. And stay tuned. We have some upcoming workshops that will go over some of the classroom technologies and best practices to help you all as you embark on a new school year, a historic school year. And so thank you all for joining. If you do have any questions, feel free to email us, and have a happy Friday and a good weekend.